watching another thing from yesterday, and so you tell me if I'm too loud at any point along the. I still haven't figured out how to.
Well, let's get the audience to tell us if you're too loud because you're live.
Oh, there you go.
Good morning,
There
good
you go.
afternoon, good evening. Welcome to The Unspoken Truth. I'm your host, Robert Brass. Happy 4th of July to my American friends. G'day, Ed. How are you, mate?
Living the dream, Robbie. Thanks for asking.
What's happened on the 4th of July? Has there been fireworks all day long? Is it guns and beers and, women in bikinis and flags? I don't know. That's what I see online. Is that how it actually is or not really?
Yeah, you just see the really good stuff. Well, yeah, 4th of July, it's an excuse. People, it's a day off from work, and people are typically, they have their barbecues where they go. Minnesota, everyone has a lake house, so a lot of people are up at the lake. That's the Minnesota sort of thing to do. Is go to the lake, or
Go to the lake and party up there. Does everyone let off fireworks up at the lake?
Yeah, they're not supposed to, but everyone does.
Yeah, right. Is that legal in America? You're allowed to have fireworks?
It's state by state, right?
Right.
Or, most Minnesotans, if you want a fireworks, we travel across the border to Wisconsin and get them, and then come back.
Bring them back.
And just hope that we're not stopped by a cop.
Well, it's a big no-no here in New South Wales and Sydney. The only places you can do it are in Canberra, and there's rules around that, and also in Darwin. And I think in Darwin that there's one day. I think it's around this time of the year, actually. There's one day a year that you can do it. You got to buy the fireworks between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. and you got to let them off between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. in this nanny state. When I was growing up, it was a free-for-all, man. You could buy as many fireworks as you want, and
me too.
Yeah, it was good fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, every 4th of July, ERs were full of people who blew their fingers off. It's kind of a tradition.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when I was a kid, we would get those what we called M80s. Now M80s are pretty serious, and they're like little grenades.
Yeah.
So you light the fuse and you throw it somewhere, and
usually at your mate.
Yeah, that's right. Boys could throw it at each other. Yeah, the things we did. I could tell you stories of stuff I did. It's a minor miracle I'm still alive.
Yeah, it's a miracle that I'm alive as well as a result of those fireworks. But then everybody goes, well, why did you want to be in the military? Well, what did you think? I wanted to play with things that go kaboom. And I got to do that quite a lot as well. I can remember the first time lying on a rifle range, because we don't have a gun culture here, of course. And when I was in the Army, because in the Navy, you don't touch rifles. There's nothing like that. But I remember lying on my guts on the range, firing for the first time, thinking, I finally got to do it. Finally. I remember that, and then thinking, all right, I've done it now. Can I leave? No, not yet. You've got 4 years here. You signed the contract, pal. That's how it is. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. We're available as a podcast over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Come on over to Telegram and to Twitter and follow us there as well. All of the links that we talk about today will be in the description just below. So we've got a bit of a funner show today, if that's a real word, funner. We're going to talk about Happy FU Day, Happy 4th of July. Ed's got something to say about that. We're going to play with that a little bit. I'm going to show you how the government is not as slow as what you might think. There's a lot of things been going on in France in the last couple of days, and talking about turning social media off and turning the internet off. They really do have their finger on the trigger, and it can happen faster than you think. And I believe that that's intimately intertwined into what had happened to the Brexit campaign and Nigel Farage, who has been debanked. If you haven't heard about that story, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share a little bit about that with you. But let's get into today's show. Let's do that straight away, shall we, Ed? Why don't you kick off with your little presentation, and let's have a discussion about FU Day. I want to know why you're calling it FU Day and what that's all about.
Okay. Well, first of all, big announcement today. I am on Twitter now.
Woo!
I was on Twitter. So my first time ever. So I've got to learn how to use the platform. I don't think I have any followers. Are you following me yet, Rob? Are you?
Yeah, I followed you. I saw that straight away, and I'm like, there it is. There's your first follower.
So you got bragging rights. So
there it is.
So if anyone else wants to be the second in line, what's my handle again? It's a Head Official. Is that right? I forgot my own handle already. I think it's a Head Official.
Here it is. Look, I'm multitasking, and I'll put it up on the screen for you there. So there it is. There it is, right there. Go and follow Ed on Twitter. Hey Ed Official. There it is. So
please, I would love to have some followers, some actual followers on Twitter. Okay, so now I can chat like a 14-year-old girl as much as I want on the
Well,
Okay.
all jokes aside, before you go there, as I was scrolling through my Twitter feed this morning, there was a podcast. I can't remember the name of the show for the life of me, but he put a post there and it said, Twitter is fantastic for podcast distribution. Uploaded to Spotify, got 10,000 downloads in the first hour or something like that. Uploaded to Twitter, got 60 million downloads in the first 24 hours. I'm like, whoa. And I did see a post with Elon saying, you should bring your content over to Twitter because we have much wider distribution. So that's why we stream live every day on Twitter, and I'll get your details and we'll get it plugged into StreamYard here so we stream onto your Twitter channel as well. But I'm finding that, the amount of distribution that you get over there far exceeds anything that you could ever hope for in Facebook or in Instagram. Don't even bother with those platforms, I would say. Come on over to Twitter, and that's where the action's at.
Yeah, I mean, I do know, don't most of our online live stream followers follow us on Twitter? Through the Twitter feed?
Not all of them. We do have sometimes the streams they're not necessarily watching them live, but on completion of it, sometimes I see, I've got an audience like just of a couple of hundred people there. It's very small. I haven't spent a lot of time building it, but sometimes I see 50, 60 views of a video, where over at YouTube it's about 30 or 40 views because we're just kind of getting going. We're only a couple of months in here. But when you look at the ratios of a couple of thousand people on YouTube versus just a couple of hundred people, the ratios are much better. So distribution is much wider on Twitter. Okay,
cool. Okay, so yes, here in America, it is the 4th of July, and I would be remiss if I didn't have my report have to do with the 4th of July. I'm kind of like obligated, so I can't let this day go past. I can't talk about, I've got to talk about 4th of July stuff. And I've got some pretty strong opinions on the whole topic surrounding freedom and independence and that kind of thing. So this should be right up my alley. So I've got a little monologue here. It's only about 3 minutes long, so bear with me and we'll talk about it afterward. Okay, so today is the 4th of July here in America, and so happy Insurrection Day. Now, I'm not talking about the fake insurrection of January 6th, because that was bogus. That was not an insurrection. But actually, when we seceded from Britain, that was an actual insurrection. And on this day, we should all be giving a boatload of thanks to our founding fathers. These men were not only the top 1%, they were like the top 1/4% in the country. They were very wealthy men. So they put their fortunes on the line, not to mention their lives. But our Declaration of Independence and then the subsequent Revolutionary War that followed from that was kind of an unimaginable event. So let's all take a moment to thank those men and for giving us a constitution where we enshrined the values that our country was going to be built upon. Now, those values are under attack every single day. Modern wokists. Listen, Americans now spend most of the time asking for permission to live their lives from their government rather than living their lives freely. Now, I will confess that I am a conservative and a traditionalist, but even more so, I guess I'd categorize myself mostly as a libertarian. I believe in limited government. The government should be as small as possible and should stay out of our lives as much as possible. But these days, we have a government who is increasingly encroaching on our lives. We have a government now who wants to install surveillance cameras everywhere. And that extends to this surveillance monetary system that they want to put us onto. That's what the Fed Now program is about, and that's what CBDCs are about. Now, you don't have true freedom unless you're in an FU position, okay? You want to be able to say F you.
A wise man's life is based around fuck you. The United States of America is based on fuck you.
And the most effective way of being able to do that is this way. You want to be financially independent, and that includes things like getting your assets into assets that you can actually control, such as gold and silver. This is actual money versus fiat currencies, which is made up money. So I invite you to use today as an opportunity to make a promise to yourself to be truly free, become financially independent, get yourself into an FU position. Now, Rob and I have ways for you to achieve that financial independence. So I encourage you to reach out to us and learn how you can establish some passive recurring income. And I encourage you to adopt our mantra that will help lead you to true financial freedom. Reduce your exposure to the banks, get some gold and silver, and establish streams of passive recurring income. Rob and I can't help you with the first one. You either reduce your exposure to your banks or you don't. But the other two, we can actually help you with. We have programs that will help you acquire your gold and silver in the best possible way. And more importantly, will help you establish streams of passive recurring income. So this time next year, when you're celebrating 4th of July, hopefully it's not just Happy Insurrection Day. It's Happy FU Day.
Fuck you, blow me.
Because that is when you will have true freedom. And that's my 4th of July message for you guys. Get out there and eat some actual steaks and hot dogs and hamburgers. Stay away from hamburgers made out of bugs. All right. Ed Anderson, live from Minnesota, signing out.
Happy 4th of July, my friend. I love it. I love it. I love the American aspect of that as well. The happy fuck you day. Nothing could be more true than that. You think that you're free, but you're actually technically not free. Yet here in Australia, we're the most taxed society in the world. I can't go out the front door. I used to say I can't go out the front door without spending $20. So people would say, is Sydney expensive to live? You can't go out the front door without spending $20. These days, it's probably $50. And what I mean by that is you've got to pay for parking. You've got to pay for tolls on the road. You've got to buy something. You've got to, everywhere that you go, you have to, there is some element. It's very hard for you not to spend money in a day. Very hard. You know, and even if you've got your pantry's full of food and your fridge is full of food because you've been grocery shopping, there's some purchase that has happened online during the day and something that's automatically been debited out of your bank account during the day for some reason. There's not a lot of people that have that under complete control. Not a lot of people, you know, and not a lot of people that I know have their budgets completely dialed in either. And, you know, if something goes wrong, can they get their hands on, you know, $1,000 to get a new fridge or a new washing machine because the thing blew up because it was 20 years old? You know, so I think nothing is more important than having that financial security in your life, because once you've got that, that's not necessarily the most important thing, but bloody hell, it's number 2 after breathing. And once you've got that, you can pretty much do whatever you want with your life, whatever that thing is. Like, what would you really do if you were completely and totally financially free, man? Not many people think about that or actually talk about it.
No, I think if you want to stump someone, ask them, hey, if you were independently wealthy tomorrow, what would you do with your life? Most people have a tough time answering that because they don't really have the time to think about it, and they haven't really thought it through. For them, it's a pipe dream. They never really settled. So it's kind of an interesting exercise for people, an intellectual exercise to think about what they would really do if they're actually financially independent. You hear all the time about these lottery winners who they win the lottery, and now of course we know the story that most people lose all their money. But for those who don't, they don't quit the job. They keep going to work. Right? You hear those stories all the time, and that's kind of a lack of imagination. They're kind of they've been programmed to live a certain life, and that's their idea of happiness, I guess. Their idea of fulfillment. America, as it's the global entity that actually can say "fuck you." So for the past 100 years, we would say, when you have the largest, strongest military in the world, and when your currency is the world's reserve currency, you spend a lot of time saying "fuck you." So that's one of the reasons why America has been kind of a bully for an awful long time here, and other countries now are starting to really resent it. I think they've resented it for quite a while, and that's leading to the de-dollarization. So America, we're at risk of losing our FU status on the world stage because our dollar is becoming less, powerful, and our currencies are being debased at a very rapid rate. Our culture is like going to shit. The norms in our society have really degraded. We are pretty much a deviant, tolerant society now. And
there is one thing amongst the doom and gloom, though, Ed, is that fundamentally the same things are true of most Western societies. And I think the older that you get as an individual, the more that actually is highlighted to you. You see that because you can actually see the rapid progress and the change that's happened over your given lifetime. But one thing that hasn't changed there for you in the States is opportunity. And I would say the same thing is true here in Australia. We might be led by leftist greenie morons who are total failures at leadership, and the same might be true there in the United States. but you as an individual can still take personal responsibility to build that lifestyle that you want and to have the FU money that you want and to be able to say FU to whoever you want, whenever you want, because you're still afforded the opportunity and the ability to do that. And I think that that's something that is forgotten on a lot of people as well, particularly if you're out in the media all the time and you're always reporting on the media and talking about what's happening in the world. You forget that, you know, we still live in a place where there is opportunity for you to actually create something. You and I, you know, on the close of these podcasts here that we do on a daily basis, people don't realize, but the conversation continues for another 45 minutes on the other side of that. And usually what we're talking about is opportunity and the opportunity to create something, to build something, to create a new business, to go here or to go there. And that, in my view, is what represents our modern world. Is, you know, for all the bad stuff that's happening, for the wars and the leftists and all of the craziness that's happening, if you just put that aside and take personal responsibility for yourself, you can still prosper and have everything that you ever dreamed of. I watched a really good documentary yesterday on Netflix about the pyramids, and it's this, I can't remember I should look up the guy's name if I'm going to tell the story, but it was only yesterday. He was like the Minister of Antiquities in the Egyptian government, and he started as a student, as an archaeologist, and then he went through the ranks. And he tells his story, and his life story, I can sum it up in just a couple of sentences, but he pretty much says, when I was a kid, I hated archaeology. And the reason I hated archaeology is because all of the archaeologists and everything that I saw, they were all foreigners. None of them were Egyptians. And all of the people that had these massive finds and you know, they found the pharaohs and the tombs, and they found all of this treasure and all this stuff. They were not Egyptians. And like, why aren't Egyptians finding our own stuff? Like, why isn't it our own culture? And he's a pretty old guy. He must be in his like mid-70s, maybe must be nudging his 80s, I reckon. And he makes it all the way through the ranks of archaeology to be like one of the ministers in the government that's responsible for it all. And it's the Netflix doco is about, it's on his last quest to find this last pyramid, and no one knows where it was. It's a gap in the historical record about this particular pharaoh, and we think that it's going to be here. But essentially it's kind of like a story of his life, and he narrates it here and there just with this wisdom of age. And he says, you've got to have a dream. If you don't, and he says, archaeology is a process. You have to have a vision for archaeology. The person who found King Tut's tomb took 5 years to get there. And, you know, if he had have quit after the first season of digging, because they can only dig for 9 months of the year or something because the weather's too hot, then he would have went home and left, but he didn't, because he had a vision that it could be here, it should be there, and just keeps moving forward. And he said it's like a metaphor for life. You've got to have a vision for your life. You have to have an idea about what it is that you want to do, what you want for your family, what you want for your loved ones, how you want your life to actually look. And for all the craziness and madness in our world, I think the 4th of July, you know, even for an Aussie like me, is a reminder that you can still acquire that vision that you have for yourself. You can have that beautiful house, that incredible family, those amazing holidays. Even if inflation is at 30%, you can still do that. That's up to you to do that. You have to take personal responsibility for yourself. But the problem that we have in society is we're so swamped by media. We're so swamped by other messages and other narratives that we forget that we can do that. If you block all of that out and turn all of that off, turn it all off, turn the news off, turn everything off, turn your social media off, and spend 100% of your day working on you and working on your dreams, you'll find your own King Tutankhamun, Pharaoh tomb. You'll find that for yourself. If that's your dream and that's your vision, you'll find it. And it's consistently shown. It's true. It can be done. You've done it. You achieved it in your life. I've achieved it in my life. It can be done.
Yeah, that is, well, it's the American way, right? It's the American dream, although it's not. You know, I mean, you have
even the Egyptian way.
Yeah. I mean, we call it the American way, but humans are the same. We all want something better. Yeah. We all have our dreams. And now the ongoing struggle that we have here in America or anywhere is there is a very strong contingent in our society that actively works against that idea. Now, that's what socialism is. That's what fascism is. That's what communism is. They pour water on your dreams. For them, it's all about the collective. It's all about your part in contributing to the group. American, at least traditionally, is rugged individualism. Go west and seek your fortune, young man. Horace Greeley. That it was up to you to figure it out. It's up to you to make your own way, and that was celebrated. Well, these days, for the past couple of generations, ever since I can remember, the left has been the exact opposite. Their message is professional, victimhood. And the system is rigged against you, and that is my pet peeve with these professional racists. There are organizations out there who make their living off of race baiting. That's their business. That's their business.
Isn't that the whole point, right? In that free society, you can have all of that going on, and if you tune to tune that out, then you can still have and do whatever you want, and you can be that rugged individual that goes west and seeks your fortune and to do all those things, whether that's physically or metaphorically, it doesn't matter. But you can still do it. That's the beauty of the world that we live in. In fact, when I think about it, just listening to you talk here, that's actually one of the coping mechanisms that I have. And I didn't realize until you were just saying it there, that there's a part of society, there's an element of society that's are just professional victims, and they're just consistently doing that. But most people, I think, in my mind, it's a bit of a generalization. Most people look at it and go, oh, well, whatever, man, if you want to be a victim like that, then that's completely up to you. Like, whatever, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't matter. I can see it, I can acknowledge it, but it just doesn't matter to me because I'm on this path over here, and I'm going straight. I'm on the straight and narrow over here to do the right things and to protect my family and protect my wealth and to protect my dreams. Like that, all of the negative socialism and all the negative communism, all the negativity that's out there, whatever, man, do whatever you want. I don't give a shit because it just doesn't matter to me because it doesn't affect me because I've got the FU status.
Yeah. And me too. And I want everyone in our audience to have that FU mentality. Because no one's coming to help you. The government's not going to help you. No.
Hey. They are. If you elect that person, they're going to save us all from ourselves.
So what really irks me is that permanent victim class who's perpetuating that narrative to a whole group of people who buy into it.
Yeah.
Just face it. It's easy. It's easier to be a victim than it is to go out there and make it work. Because if you want to be entrepreneur, whether you're opening a restaurant or any other kind of business, it is freaking hard. Okay, and it's painful. Especially if you have employees, you got to worry about the employees. There's a long list of things you have to worry about that you have to deal with in order to make that success. Everybody says they want to be a millionaire. Everyone says they want to be rich. Boy, but that Elon Musk, man, he's so lucky. He's a billionaire.
He wasn't lucky, man, working 20 hours a day, and you see his health suffering. He doesn't see his family, doesn't see his kids. That's his life, man. If you want to swap lives with him, no, man, no way.
No, that's it. The reason why there are far fewer women who are at the top of the corporate ladder than men, because women, generally speaking, are not willing to sacrifice the way men are willing to sacrifice. There are men, I don't know why anyone would want to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Because girls are smarter than boys, right? That's why. There's some girls at the top there, but some girls look at that and go, fuck that, man. I'm not doing that. What? Yeah. It's got nothing to do with equality or some bullshit glass ceiling. Women in those positions are smarter, and they look at it and they go, no thanks. I'd rather have my life.
Well, there you go. But then you have all the women say, well, why are men they're at the top? There's a reason why they're the top, because women are smarter.
You work the 20-hour day. He's a dumbass that's doing that, not you.
so that's the irony. And a little message out there to all the ladies out there who complain about having a husband they never see. He's always working so much. Listen, shut up. You should be grateful that man is willing to put him through all that to give you the lifestyle that you want. And for you women out there who want a high value, competitive, ambitious man, be careful what you wish for, because
he'd never be around.
That's right. He's never going to be around. So if you're okay with that, so be careful. When you start being so tough on the menu, but sometimes finding a guy with a 9 to 5 job is a pretty good deal because you get your sweetheart around more often, and that's what you know. So men are willing to do, but generally speaking, people are not willing to do the work that they need to do in order to get those kind of jobs, to have that kind of success. Now, I used to think a lot, the professional football players and basketball players. First of all, I think they are being paid way too much. I don't take them seriously in any regard. This Black Lives Matters protest stuff and then kneeling at baseball games. I don't watch any professional sports anymore because F you, man.
Yeah, you just wrecked it. Yeah.
The F you. However, listen, there are a lot of young men out there, particularly minority young men, who see that as their way out of the ghetto, right? So I'm going to be a professional. Do you know what the odds are of making it into on the A team of a professional basketball team or football team? It's virtually impossible. The odds are, so for those people who do make it to that level, you got to give them chops, right? You got to give them that respect because they worked really hard. They suffered a lot to get to that level. And that's true with any profession, right? If you can you imagine being a neurosurgeon? We were talking earlier before we started about a guy, a neurosurgeon, right? Can you imagine? Do you know the kind of, oh man, just the brutality, the mental brutality they go through to become a neurosurgeon?
And that's the beauty of our society, Ed, is that if you choose to be a pro athlete or a neurosurgeon or the top of your field, you can. And if you choose just to be in the middle, you can. If you choose to be shit at that job, you can. That's the really great thing about it. But the best thing about our society is, despite all of the craziness and despite what the left would have you think, it's still a meritocracy, because people that supply the right products and services are the ones that actually get rewarded for that. They're the ones that are achieving the financial goals that they've set for themselves.
Well, is that true though?
I think it is.
Okay,
if you look at something as simple as a trade business, if you provide good services, you're on time, and you do the right thing, and you tick all the right boxes for customers, you're going to have a lot of customers, and you'll be rewarded for running a good business.
I think, generally speaking, yes, you're correct, but it is less so today, and we are tacking in the wrong direction in that regard. Yesterday, we did a segment on affirmative action. Right? And we talked about how these people were getting into colleges who didn't really qualify to get in college, but because they checked the right box, the right social identity box, they were allowed in ahead of people who actually did meet the academic credentials, but they were the wrong skin color. In businesses, we have people in positions at corporations who are not that qualified, but they check a certain box. So there is a very strong push in our country to reward people for things that they didn't really actually earn, but they figure they're solving some kind of social sin from the past by doing this. And so
one of my coping mechanisms, tell me what you think here, Ed, because it's on that very point. One of my coping mechanisms is, you hear about that stuff and you talk about it, and what you and I are seeing this stuff on a daily basis as well. But when was the last time that you actually encountered that? It's there. It's in what it is. It's in the populace lexicon. Like when you look at mainstream media, you'll see that last week the reports were about X, and this week they're about Y, and next week they're going to be about A, and the following week they'll be about C. And it's just on and on and on. It never kind of ends. I often look at this politics thing that we see here in Australia and this voice to parliament, and I see all of that, and I live in a little bubble. I work for myself. I live in a little bubble. I'm in this little apartment where I live, and my world is my world. It's very limited and narrow. Well, I can't even remember the last time I saw a politician. Are they even real? Like physically? When was the last time I physically saw a politician? I don't know, maybe Australia Day 5 years ago when ScoMo was down the park here on Australia Day doing ceremonies for citizens and stuff like that. That was the last time I saw one. But I see them every day on TV. Are they even real people? Is it even real? Is this ESG thing even real? Is this woke leftist trans thing even real? I don't encounter it. I don't see it. What do I care about it? I'm in my bubble. But if you open up the aperture of your life and you pay attention to these things, there's a nuclear war about to happen in Europe. Like, what? Whoa, boy. Whoa. Hang on a minute. I'm just over here living in my little bubble over there. What do I care about a nuclear war over there? So that's actually one of the coping mechanisms that I have, and that's one of the beauties of our society as well. And I think, when you look at the Declaration of Independence, what are the key things in that? All men are created equal, which means women as well. All men and women are created equal. And you've got the right to pursue happiness and liberty. And how does it go? Tell me how it goes.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
There it is. And
a little interesting topic there. People think happiness, I want to be a yoga instructor. That'll make me happy. So people, that's not what happiness meant back then when they wrote it. Happiness meant money, fortune.
Did it?
Yeah.
Is that the context of it? I didn't know that.
That's the context of it. So life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness means the pursuit of a successful career, of fortune, of pursuing a fortune. Yeah.
Back in the day, they knew that money made you happy. They were right, man. They were right.
Ben Franklin. If you allow for inflation, he was wealthier than Bill Gates.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah.
How were they so wealthy? Were they landowners or something?
In Ben Franklin's case, he was a very successful printer, and back then everyone wrote, read newspapers, and so he was the largest, publisher.
Like a Rupert Murdoch of his day, or something like that.
Right. And also, he had tons of patents. One of his patents, because he was a very well-renowned scientist, which is kind of lost in this scheme of things. He invented bifocals. He invented eyeglasses. Ben Franklin. Anybody out there who's wearing bifocals or eyeglasses? Ben Franklin invented eyeglasses. Not eyeglasses, but they were invented before. But he made the bifocals. So he had that invention. He invented the lightning rod. Because back then, a lot of houses burnt down. Houses back then were built.
An important thing back in the day when everything was made of wood, man.
That's right. But he invented the lightning rod. So, and every time someone bought a lightning rod, he got a royalty on it. So he had several inventions. So he was a very wealthy. He's probably the wealthiest man of that time. He probably could have funded the revolution all on his own. Needs more gunpowder, sure. So I don't know, we got off track there a little bit. Yeah, so
we're squarely on track. It's about the 4th of July.
Yeah, 4th of July. And keep things in perspective. And I think for those people out there who are struggling, and most people to some degree are, the people who aren't, they are a small crowd. They are a small select group of people. But there are ways that you can achieve your freedom. If you're at a 9-to-5 job and you think you don't have time to pursue, go back to school and get your PhD and change your life, or I've got kids to do. There are ways of developing streams of passive recurring income that can help you get there. And these days, that's what I spend most of my time helping people with, is helping them establish streams of passive recurring income that anybody can do, regardless of your schedule. And but that's what you want to be in. If you want to be truly free, if you want to be able to say F you, to the government, to whomever, the single best way for you to do it is to be financially independent. Have that F you, capability. And
that's what people should be aspiring to, is not necessarily the career, the job, the family, and all of those things. It should be aspiring to be free. And the first step to your freedom is your financial security, for sure. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ed. It's a great reminder of why the 4th of July is such an important day to celebrate. And it's not just for Americans, it's a reminder for everybody as well that you should pursue your dreams. And like our Egyptian archaeologist friend said, you need to have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you're just going to be wandering vaguely through the desert thinking that something is going to appear in front of you, and it won't. You'll just give up on that. So my question to the audience is, what is your vision? What is the vision for your life, and what is it that you want, and how are you going to find that happiness and that freedom that you're looking for? That's an important subject we need to talk more about. All right, let's take a little break and we'll be right back. In this crazy, uncertain world, we all need a way to protect and insulate ourselves from the outside forces that we simply cannot control. I'm a news junkie, and after a lifetime of constantly immersing myself in the darkness and the despair that engulfs the world, the path to shield myself and my family has become crystal clear. I want to invite you to come and join me in the Unspoken Truth community, where I'll show you how I protect my family from this crazy world. You'll get access to 3 masterclasses worth over $1,000, as well as our live events, training, and community of truthers just like you. Come on over to the unspokentruth.com.au and join us for just 50 cents a day. What are you waiting for? Get started now at the unspokentruth.com.au. All right, I want to talk about something that's happened in the last week or so to a fella in the UK. His name's Nigel Farage. If you don't know who this guy is, you would have seen this fella before. He was a big proponent of Brexit when all of that was happening. So that's Nigel there. And this is what's happened to him. So he's been completely debanked. Let me just get rid of that banner there. So he's banking with this bank called Coutts, or however the hell you say that, whatever that name is. And his bank account was closed due to lack of funds. That's what they've said to him. But in that article, what he says is that he's banked there for 9 or 10 years or something like that, and at no stage did they ever tell him that he had to have a given amount of money in his bank account. So these bank accounts are for high net worth individuals, and you're supposed to keep your balance above a certain level. But at no stage was he ever told to keep his balance above that level, and they closed his accounts as a result of that. And then on top of that, they said to him, we can set up another account for you over here at a sister bank, and they wouldn't have it. And he subsequently has gone to 9 other banks and has been rejected. And when I look at it, so I'm just going to tie it back to something else that's happening in the media at the moment as well. So we know about all the riots that are happening in France. And Emmanuel Macron has come out and said, and he's made an appeal to parents to say that it's social media and video games causing these riots. And essentially what he's saying is people who are intoxicated by video games are causing these problems in France. So really, when you boil that down and you take away what he's saying, if you read between the lines of what he's saying it's not my fault. They're not my policies. I'm just the president over here, man.
Those damn kids.
But I got news for you, pal. It's not just kids. They're not kids. They're not 14-year-old kids out there rioting with police and looting.
I'm surprised he didn't throw in rock and roll.
All jokes aside, this shitbag WEF banker wannabe, he's a bank teller. So in the spirit of banks, he has come out and said, we're going to turn social media off, and we're going to turn the internet off as well, by the way. And it's just a reminder. So this was in the media yesterday, but do you think I could find anything on Google today? No. It was all over Twitter, him saying he was going to turn social media off. He was going to do all sorts of things. And essentially what the government is doing is they've got their finger on the trigger. And whenever they want, they'll just turn the internet off. They'll turn Telegram off. They'll turn Snapchat off. They'll turn all social media off. And the way they do that, ladies and gentlemen, is they do it by banning the IP address in the geographic location. So it doesn't matter if you've got a VPN. It doesn't matter if you've got anything to do to try and circumvent all of that off. What they'll do is they'll turn off the IP address of Snapchat or the IP address of Instagram or the IP address of Telegram, and you simply cannot access it. It doesn't matter where you are on planet Earth or where your VPN thinks that you are on planet Earth. It doesn't work. They'll switch it off. And, that's because of some riots. Now, my question to you, Ed, is do you think this guy was banned because he's got a big mouth?
Yes.
Because when I was trying to think of some other people that this has happened to, so there's a series of people over the last couple of years that have simply been cancelled. And the reason that they've been cancelled is because they've got a big mouth and they've spoken out against whatever the mainstream narrative is out there. And I look at someone like Andrew Tate. So put Andrew Tate's criminal case aside for a second. Andrew Tate was cancelled several years ago. But what did the guy actually ever do? So was he outside the terms and conditions of Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever platform that he was banned from? Well, the answer is no, because if you listen to the story of how he was banned from everything in one day. And if you think that the whole thing is not a conspiracy, if you think that the whole thing is not a giant CIA and intelligence gathering operation, you're wrong. It actually is. Because when you listen to the story of how he gets banned, he says, one morning I woke up and my Uber account was cancelled. My Gmail account was cancelled. My Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, and every account that you could possibly ever have were all cancelled simultaneously on the same day in the same morning. And it's like, how did how did Gmail get together with Twitter? And how did Twitter and Gmail get together with YouTube and with Instagram and get rid of me? How did they do that? What is that? And what it is that his big mouth is getting too loud. And what he says is that he appeals to military-aged males. And he talks about being rich and being successful, and it's in the theme of the 4th of July and what you're talking about, and building FU money so you can do whatever you want. And I remember seeing an interview with him once where someone said, what would you say to a young man that says, I want to join the Marine Corps? And he goes, whatever you do, don't join the Marine Corps. Why would you ever do what Joe Biden tells you to do? Are you crazy? What's wrong with you? Why would you let a senile 80-year-old man send you into the jaws of death? Why would you ever do that?
And welcome to the last episode of Unspoken.
Well, his hypothesis is that the reason he was cancelled is because he has so much influence with young people. Yeah. And the powers that be simply cannot get at those young people because they think for themselves and they don't give a shit about politics or anything to do with that. And so what we're going to do is shut this guy up. And so when I look at Nigel Farage, I ask myself, did his big mouth get him banned? You know, he's the Brexit, man who, let's get the UK out of this stupid EU thing. Let's get him out of there. And he was successful in that. But he was subsequently cancelled from everything after all of that as well. Did he go too far? And now he's been debanked. And, you only hear about him being debanked because he has a platform. And he said in a couple of interviews over the last couple of days that there's been a bunch of people that have reached out to him and contacted him and said, yeah, I've been debanked as well. And you can't live in society we can. The reality is he's probably got mates here in Australia. He goes, yeah, man, I'll set up a bank account for you, put all the money there, I'll give you the card, that's it, done, solved. Your problem solved. I could, hey man, can you help me out, Ed? Yeah, just go set up another bank account, I'll put my money in there and I'll pay taxes in America, whatever. I can solve that problem in about 30 seconds flat. It's not really a problem, it's the principle that they're shutting you up. And most normal everyday people don't have the ability to do that. If you're just going to work, 8 till 4, 9 to 5, and you're driving a truck or you're sweating away as a landscape gardener or something like that, you don't have the ability to do those things. You don't have the networks to do those things. And if they debank you, you're stuffed.
Well, this is easy. This is a very effective way for the left to shut down their opponents. They criminalize them. Look what they did with Trump. They indicted them. This is a political indictment. That's what it is. This is what politics and what the deep state does in general, what the liberals do to their opponents. They find ways to punish them for things that they're not guilty of. They find ways to make their lives miserable. Debanking him. Now, what's number one in our mantra, Rob?
Reduce your exposure to the banks before they reduce your exposure for
you. There you go. Number one, reduce your exposure to your bank. That's my message to everyone, especially if you are the leader of the Brexit movement.
Especially if you have a podcast called The Unspoken Truth. Get your money out of the bank.
I mean, I'm surprised it took them this long to debank him, honestly. There are ways, though, in this day and age to protect yourself. You can open up corporations in Dubai, for example, and there are ways to set up your money legally that will reside offshore and it cannot be touched. There are ways.
The problem is most people, not most people, but there's a percentage of society that just go to work and go home, and they don't have the ability or the extra cash to go and set up a business in Singapore or Dubai and get those tax benefits and to do all those things. But that comes back to what we were talking about before. You've got to have a vision and an idea for your future. If you want to be financially independent, you need to start behaving like that and thinking like that and creating additional income streams that are going to leverage you out of the job that you're actually in. And then when you do that, how are you going to protect your wealth? What are you going to do to solve those problems and to solve those challenges? Because running it just as a regular bank account like that shows to me that he's not very sophisticated as well. If him being shut down with that bank account has caused him so much grief in his life, it just shows me that he hasn't been thinking like an entrepreneur or investing his money or thinking about how to protect himself and reduce his exposure to the banks.
If he had not reduced the exposure to bank, and say, I'm sorry, you don't have a lot of sympathy from me, mister, because you're a smart guy. You should have taken a step by now. What the hell were you thinking?
I'll tell you what the hell he was thinking. He was thinking that the banking system is completely independent and not part of the deep state.
No, he's aware that that's all corrupt, and that's just it, right? Someone like him, he's fully aware, that it is corrupt and that it's been corrupt. So why hasn't he? My guess is he really did set himself up for the most part. And yes, he might have had his token account at that bank, but it's not. So I think he's probably using this as a way to make a little noise, make a point. My guess, maybe I'm wrong, my guess is he already took measures to protect himself. If he didn't, come on, Nigel. Nigel's one of my favorite men. He's one of my favorite men in the world, and he has his own podcast, and he interviews high level personalities all the time on his podcast show. So I'm sure he's all set up. Okay,
there's no excuse, is what you're saying.
There's no excuse, and I think that he is probably set up. I wouldn't worry about Nigel. He's in good shape. However, now, this does highlight a point. Now, he is a high profile individual, and so if they can do it to him, they can absolutely do it to you. And you know what? They are already doing it to you. They're working on debanking you right now. We've done podcasts on this. The Federal Reserve and the top 4 or 5 banks in this country, they're actively working to put your local bank out of business. If you're in a small local or regional bank, that bank, those days are numbered. One way or another, those banks are going to be gone. And I won't go back in the tall grass here and repeat why, but just so you know, if you're at a small to regional sized bank, your account is at risk. Okay, your bank at some point is not going to exist anymore. And the way
there's 4,000 of them in America, right?
That's right. I mean, the number of banks since 2012 to now is down 50%. So we still have, I think, a little over 10,000 branches or banks. But that number, look, their goal is to get that down to 4 or 5, not 4 or 500, 4 or 5. So they're working on debanking everyone right now. And they want everyone to be in their Federal Reserve Bank. Now, whether it's at J.P. Morgan or Citibank, it will still be a federal, because those are the people who own the Federal Reserve. Okay, so you will have a Federal Reserve bank account, which, by the way, is supposed to be unconstitutional. Okay, the Federal Reserve,
and it is.
The Federal Reserve is not supposed to be involved in retail banking in any way, shape, or form. That is built into a law. But there have been several things the past couple of years that the Federal Reserve has been doing illegally that the government doesn't seem to have a problem with. So
there's a vision for the future of the United States. All you guys have to do is to have a checkers over the big pond that separates the pair of these countries, America and Australia, and you'll see here in Australia there's less than a dozen banks. So if you want to know what it actually looks like and you want to know how it runs, have a look over here, because that's actually what happens. But the difference is that we didn't have to go through the destruction of a banking system to get to this point, because over a long period of time, the large banks swallowed up all the small ones and amalgamated them all. And really, that's what's going to happen to you there in the United States. But you're going to go through a lot of pain to actually get there.
Yeah, because the way it's going to get there is by your bank going bankrupt, going
under. Not being acquired, it's going under.
and remember, any money that's sitting in your bank is legally not your money. Okay, do you know that? Everyone, look, I want to.
You're a creditor.
Yeah, let's pin that down more for any new viewers. Any money you might, if you think you have money in the bank, you do not have any money in the bank. Okay. Every deposit,
you gave them a loan.
Every deposit you have made is not legally your money. You are, as Rob said, an unsecured creditor. You literally loaned your money to your bank. If your bank were to go under, you're like last in line to get your money back.
Well, you're going under as well.
That's right. You're going under as well. So your money in the bank is not safe. And don't talk to me about FDIC insurance, because we took a deep dive into that. The FDIC is insolvent. Okay, the FDIC is responsible for covering all of the insured deposits in the country, which amounts to about $9 trillion worth of available deposit withdrawal. They have a total right now of a little over $100 billion in the
Yeah, nowhere near the 9 trillion that needs to cover it. Yeah, it's complete garbage, isn't it? You know, that's one of the stories that, you know, we were talking earlier. It's one of the stories that's completely gone away.
Yeah,
where
well,
at the start of the year, it's like, oh my God, the banking system's going to collapse. There's 3 banks that have gone down. Like, who's next? And I remember creating the YouTube thumbnails for it. You know, there's the various who's going to be next, and we were doing shows about that. But it's gone away. But it hasn't gone away. It's just
no. That problem, we'll be talking about more in the upcoming days. That subject has not gone away. It has only accelerated, but mainstream media is not covering it at all. But the problems there are continuing to get worse. But you don't hear it talked about. The measures that are being taken to prop up these banks are just that. These are just prop up measures. They will not last. These are Band-Aid measures that will not last, and it's just going to exacerbate the situation when it does finally blow up. It's coming. You're going to see another wave around, especially this fall. And the reason for that is we talk a lot on our channels about these CMEs, these commercialized mortgage obligations, the CMOs. The commercial real estate is going to be the next big shoe to drop in the banking industry, as far as I'm concerned. For anybody out there who I'd like to hear from you. You guys have any local business, strip malls that are sitting empty, with weeds gathering? We're going to see commercial real estate. Too many people now have found out since the worldwide flu that they can do their work from home. Actually, they don't have to have this big building downtown anymore. So they're going to save money. And so all these commercial real estate mortgages, that's going to be the next big. You can see a lot of foreclosures in that industry, and that's going to lead to a whole cascade of things. But
you're quite right. There was speaking of banks, the Commonwealth Bank earlier in the week said, everybody, you got to come back to the office. And there was about 40,000 people that went, nah, not doing that. And like, if their workforce gets decimated like that, they're in big trouble, right? So they have to come to some compromise. I created a graphic here, Ed, just on this very topic, just in relation to Nigel Farage. The way I describe it is that you can get in trouble in society for a bunch of different reasons. You can commit a crime, a physical crime, white collar crime. There's 1,000 ways that you can find yourself in trouble. And he got himself in trouble with his big mouth. And the way that the deep state silenced him is by debanking him. But you too, as an individual, you don't have to be Nigel Farage and a celebrity or a leader of a political party or somebody that's on television, spruiking their opinion. Or you don't have to be Andrew Tate either. You can get in just as much trouble as everybody else. But I want to remind everybody that you are already in a digital gulag. You don't realize it. But it goes to the heart of that analogy that I didn't realize that I was on the inside of the jail until I got on the outside. Then I looked at the wall and the instructions to get out were on the outside wall. And there's a story floating around yesterday in the media here in Australia about a woman who went into the bank and said, hey, I want to withdraw $10,000. And they took her out the back into the office and they sat her down for half an hour and asked her a whole bunch of questions. And eventually the answer was no. The only way that you can withdraw cash. So she walked into the bank to go to the teller to say, hey, I want 10 grand. I'm going to go and buy this. I don't have to tell you what I'm buying with my money, but that's what I'm going to do. And she went to the teller. They said, come out the back and talk to her. And then they said no to her. The only way you can get cash is go to the ATM. So when you look at the setup of banks here in Australia now as well, there are no fly-up screens. There are no security guards in there. There's no armed people. There's no anything. And that's because the tellers don't have any money in the till that's in front of them. So if you want to deposit the money, you can do that over the counter, or some old lady comes in because she can't use an ATM because she doesn't have a card. She's got a little passbook from the 1970s. They'll still deal with that for you and help you with all of those things. But if you're just a normal, regular, modern customer and you go in there and you want to deposit the money, the concierge at the start of the bank says, what would you like to do? Oh, I've got $12,000 here I want to deposit. You go, come over here, I'll help you do it. And they'll help you press the buttons on the machine if you've never done that before. And likewise, if you go in there and say, I want to withdraw the money, they'll say, yeah, go over to the ATM and do it. But the catch is you can only pull $1,000 at a time out, per day. So you're already in the digital gulag. You're already controlled. They already control how much money you want to spend. They already control you. You just don't realize it because you don't really have a need to pull out large sums of money. Then if you want to go and buy a car for $30,000, you could probably just do a bank transfer. You don't need to go to the bank to do that. You don't need to pull cash out of the bank to do that. You can pay the invoice. Send me the invoice and I'll pay the invoice. There it is there. I'll put it on my credit card, whatever. However you're going to pay for that, however you're going to pay for that large purchase, you do an electronic transaction. When I buy a house and I put like a $200,000 deposit down on a house, I don't go to the bank and withdraw $200,000 and walk across the road and give a bag of money to another bank and go, there's the deposit for my house. The transactions don't work like that. They're all completely electronic. And so you're already in the digital gulag. They've already reduced your exposure to the bank for you. And the reason that we have stability in the Australian banking system here is because they stop people from withdrawing their money.
Yeah, well, that's not exactly what I call stability. But
that's the reason why they're not going to go under is because you can't get your money out because they've got it all.
So, don't keep your money in the freaking bank. Okay, so listen, there are, and nowadays, as you know, Rob, they make you justify your withdrawal.
Yeah, this poor woman is like, she didn't know about it, right? That's you and I, like if I went in there to withdraw $10,000, like, and someone's asking questions, it'd be like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. I'm not asking any of your questions. Shut up. Give me the money now. Get fucking now. Like, give it to me. That's how I would be, right? I would just be angry and belligerent with them. But this woman didn't know about that. And so to her, it's a giant surprise. Like, why are you asking me all of these questions? This is none of your business what I spend my money on.
That's right. And they'll even ask things, and this is, you'd be amazed how many stories I've heard from people about this exact situation, especially in England. Like NatWest is like the worst.
Yeah, the worst.
They will ask you, first of all, so what are you going to do with this money? Slap. That's the first step. None of your freaking business. And they'll say, are you being coerced to come in and ask for this money? They'll whisper that. Right?
That in some ways I can see that. You're not buying into something that you saw online, are you? You're not going to give your money somewhere. Like, I can kind of see that duty of care there a little bit because a lot of people get scammed. A lot of people, more people than you realize get scammed, man. But at the same time, no.
People are free to get scammed. that's part of the beauty of
Says the American on 4th of July.
Yeah, that's right. That's part of being free.
It's a pursuit of happiness, man.
If you're an adult, you should be able to spend that money on a hooker or for getting scammed. Whatever. Yeah. Okay, what it's your money. You can do. I mean, you can't burn it, because that is a federal offense. You can't burn, currency. You can wipe your ass with it, I guess, and then take it to the store and spend it at the store. But this is the arrogance of these institutions. They don't consider it your money, and to be fair, they told you that's not your money. If you read the fine print when you make a deposit, they tell you it's not your money. But most people don't realize that, so don't keep any money. Okay, Rob, you know the answer. I've talked to you. You know how much money I keep in the bank, right?
3 months, right? 3 months worth of bills.
3 months.
And then transfer. Well, there's a variety of reasons you don't want to keep your money in there, right? You turn it into gold and silver because then, 9/10 of the law is possession.
This is how you debank. If you want to know how you debank, this is the easiest way. This and Bitcoin are the two easiest ways to debank.
There's no question that's the simplest way to do that as well. But then there's the other aspect that just normal, regular non-investors actually have is that if you're leaving large sums of money in the bank, that's diminishing in value. If you've got 50 grand sitting in the bank from a payout or you've just saved 50 grand or whatever like that, that $50,000 is being eroded month on month by inflation and by cost of living expenses as well. So I would not do that personally. I would pull that out and put it somewhere where you're trying to get a return on it that's greater than inflation, at least at very minimum. Even if you're getting 0.5% more than inflation, you're doing better. At least you're holding the value of what it is that you've actually got there. So for me, it's not so much the banks are a bunch of scammers, the banks are a bunch of thieves and all of that stuff. It's the economy is eroding the value of your savings there, whatever those savings are. And you need to put your money to work. It's no point. It's like cash like that is like, it's useless, man. It's an anchor around your neck. It's not doing anything. You got to put it to work.
Any money in a bank is a guaranteed loss.
Yeah, there you go. Why would you lock in that loss and perpetually lock in that loss? It's madness, eh?
Oh, but interest rates are going up now, so I'm making more money on my account. Okay, so instead of making 1% a year, now you're making 2.5% a year. 3%. All right. So,
but inflation is like 17%.
Exactly. So you are losing money on that money. I'm in a program. I won't promote it here, but I'm in a program where I'm averaging 20% a month.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it compounds.
So you're really only getting 3% profit. If inflation is 17% and the value of your money is diminishing by cost of living like that, you really only head by 3%.
Well, we're talking about 20% a month.
Well, there you go. Well, that's
compounding. Inflation is what now? 17, 18% a year, right?
A year,
so,
yeah.
So 1 month in that one program is equal to how many years sitting in the bank account?
Yeah, it keeps you a very long way ahead. Very, very long way ahead. And you don't have to go and put all your money in programs like that.
No,
put a little bit of money in it.
And you shouldn't.
No.
And if anyone contacts me and I talk about the program, they decided to, pump everything, I would hang up the phone.
Yeah, don't do that. Like, you do what you want to do with your money. Yeah.
That's a silly thing to do. However, you listen, taking risks is okay. It's okay to take risks. Show me a successful person in life, and I'll show you a person who took some risks. I'm sorry, but that just, it's a necessary thing in life, if you want to get ahead. The people who don't take any risks in life are the people who end up at 50 years old in a small apartment with 4 cats. Don't be that person with 4 cats.
At least live in a big house and have 4 cats.
Yeah, let the cat give the cats room to run around.
That's it. So will we be right in saying, Ed, let's close it out with this, and let's close it out with this important point. Will we be right in saying that you're already in a digital gulag?
Yes. Well, if you're not taking steps, you are. You don't have to be. You can take steps to limit it. But
we're giving you the instructions to get out. Reduce your exposure, get some gold and silver, or something that is better than just leaving it in the bank.
Right.
And that's the whole point. Reduce your exposure so you can get it into something else that is against inflation and better than inflation, and then create some passive recurring income to make all of that heartache go away for you.
That's right. You don't have to be. Now, it's impossible to avoid the gulag entirely. Maybe you're on the weekend program or something, a work release or something. You're going to need to have so many. I still live in the real world. I have to pay bills. That's why I do keep 2 or 3 months worth of bill paying in the bank. So we are still in that kind of monetary system where, I pay bills out of that bank account. Okay. So, but my exposure is minimal to that. Aside from the bare minimum that I need in order to participate in society, because I'll use my debit card to pay for stuff at the gas station and stuff. That's an issue of convenience. Everything else is debanked. So, and everyone should be debanking. Not financial advice, but it's really, really good life advice. Okay, so everybody should be debanking for exact reasons all the reasons we talked about in the podcast. Get your money out of your GD bank. Your bank is not your friend. Your bank is an adversary.
It is the ultimate adversary, and it is the ultimate problem for you as an individual. And I really believe, and I'll close it out with this, I believe that we're all inside of a digital gulag, and there's literally nothing that you can do to escape it if you stay where you are, because nothing's going to change unless you do something about that. So, there's 1,000 ways to skin that cat, but I recommend that you do something and start making moves towards your sovereignty and to your freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your comments and for dialing in here. If you've managed to stick around, thanks so much. We appreciate your support. Don't forget, we're available as a podcast, so pop on over to Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your audio content and search for The Unspoken Truth. I noticed we're getting some quite significant downloads. I noticed we were in the top 100 in the UK podcast just the other day. We're as high as 89. How about that for news and daily news, which is really cool. So whatever we're doing is working, and people are continuing to listen, and we really appreciate that support. So thank you so much. Don't forget to come and join us on Telegram as well. The links are down below in the description. Ed, have you got any closing remarks, any final thoughts on this 4th of July, this one really super important day for an American just like yourself?
Yeah, just please follow me on Twitter. Today, as of today, July 4th, 2023, for the first time ever, I am on Twitter. And
there it is. There's the link on the screen. I'll once this closes out, I'll put it into the description as well down below. It's just that Hey Ed official on Twitter. So come on over and check that out. Pretty much that's all we got for today. We'll see you same bat time, same bat channel. And don't forget to say,
God save the Queen.
God save the Queen. Thank you, Joe Biden, for all the quotes. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.